Welcome to the Fantasy Football Lounge. We're going to break down all your questions here. A couple things we got to talk over here. George Kittle, how do we go about replacing him? What are the preferred options? Do you keep him? Do you trade him? If you go 0-3, should you just jump ship, try to get what you can for him? Get into all that. Waivers just passed. We have streaming defenses. We have kickers. We have bench stashes. All that plus more. To get into all your questions. Wait for a few people to get in the chat here and we'll get going. It's a good day to talk football. Week 2. Before we know it, it's going to be like week 8, man. And the playoffs will be here, like the actual NFL playoffs, which I love, but it's also sad. You're a couple weeks away from waiting 8 months till football. So let me know if you have Kittle, what did you do? We have a lot of good replacements. I know Harold Fannin Jr. is like all the noise right now. Personally, if I had Kittle, I would feel more comfortable with a few of the other guys that are going to be more usable and predictable for these next 3 or 4 weeks. Particularly, we have Chikakonkwo, Dalton Schultz, Bretton Strange, Juwan Johnson. We know all those guys are going to be on the field a lot. Harold Fannin, I know. I'll look for Fannin this week. What up, TB? Just getting ready to talk about that. Dude, this is like a mystery box, like the Family Guy mystery box right here. Would it surprise you if he came out and did 3 for 12? Would it surprise you if he had 60% of the snaps played? Like, that's my worry. I guess the weird thing is that they ran 72 plays to the Bengals like 42. So there's a world where this week, especially against the Ravens, they only run 42 snaps. So that's a worry. And Njoku is still going to outsnap him. And Njoku's still the starter there. I really prefer Fannin if I had like a lesser tight end, not to call Tucker Kraft lesser because he's my dude, but someone like Tucker Kraft, someone like Dallas Goedert. If you waited and stream tight end, you have Dalton Kincaid. I much prefer Fannin as a stash. You know what I mean? To wait and see because he has it's weird. We don't have in fantasy, we haven't had a lot of like upside bench tight end stashes, and this is the case of one, right? Where these other guys, Juwan Johnson, Strange, Okonkwo, Dalton Schultz, are not good as much long term, but in the short term, like you have Dalton Schultz who's going to play every snap. They're banged up there in Houston. Like him to at least get you 8 or 9 points. Another name could be Michael Mayer. We haven't heard much about Brock Bowers, but if Brock Bowers is out, we're looking pretty good. Although Dr. TB, you're the doctor in the channel, so what is your outlook on Brock Bowers? Because we haven't heard much. It's kind of ominous, man. Also going to get into a bunch of streaming defenses, streaming kickers, all that. Just waiting for people to join to get your questions. I know it's a weird time. It's kind of doing a little trial run with the new equipment. See how it goes. Hopefully it sounds all right. We get going here in just a minute, guys. So we got TB saying MCL sprain, inner knee, depends on sprain level. That's not. I don't like hearing MCL sprain. I know it's just an MCL, but what are you predicting his chances are playing this week? Yo, what up, Caps? We got Dr. TB in the chat. He is our local. Well, he's not really local, but he's in the United States. What is your worry level for him? The MCL sprain, is that like 1 to 2 weeks? I think Bowers is going to want to play. I'm just a little worried. Is Mac Jones going to start? I'm not worried for the weapons. Like Mac Jones looked pretty good last year on the Jags. And here's the thing, man. If you remember when the Niners traded up to take Trey Lance, like traded up 2 firsts to take Trey Lance, it was discussed that Mac Jones was the guy. And what's funny is that everyone at the time was like, that would have been a mistake. Technically, it was more of a mistake to draft Trey Lance. So they always love Mac Jones. Shanahan's always loved Mac Jones. Mac Jones will be just fine in that system. I mean, because let's be honest, Brock Purdy is just a guy. Like he's got a good situation with Shanahan and with that team. But Mac Jones can run that system. Anyone can run that system. We saw Jimmy G run that system. So I'm not worried if Mac Jones starts. I'm not starting him in fantasy necessarily. But for Ricky Pearsall and McCaffrey, and if Juwan Jennings plays, I'm not too worried about that. TB says we'll play if it's grade 1. Talking about Bowers, I think he plays. That's fine. It's gonna limit him a little bit more, and they already play Michael Mayer a lot, so we'll have to see on that one. But it's also, like prior injury is the biggest predictor of like new injuries. So I'm a little worried if I'm a Bauer. Like that's week 1. You're already playing a little nicked up. Not exactly ideal for the tight end position. That's why this waiver situation was major this week. And let's be honest, there were some good names, man. So Juwan Johnson, a lot of people are talking up. I'm not as thrilled. They ran a lot of plays, but Eric says in a deep league, Mason Taylor and Marvin Mims were dropped. Have Warren as my tight end, but have 2 flex spots. Well, you don't ever want to play a tight end in your flex. London might not play. There's a lot of better options than Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor had 1 catch. I know he played a lot of snaps, and that's cool. But Marvin Mims would be the pickup over Mason Taylor. There's other solid guys, man. Hollywood Brown, if he's available. Definitely pick up him. That would be a perfect spot for Drake London if he misses. Josh Palmer, Keyshawn Butte, Alec Iomanner is one of my favorite pickups. That's more of like a long-term thing, but he seems to grab that number 2 job over Tyler Lockett. And I like him out of Stanford, man. He's a good player. If you really want a deep name, especially if you're a London owner, Casey Washington. He was playing the Darnell Mooney role when Mooney was out, and Mooney is still up in the air. We don't know about Mooney. So if you want to just do something to impress your league mates that might pop off, if London misses, Casey Washington already played 92% of the snaps, had 7 targets, missed on a couple deep connections from Penix, but like this dude's because everyone likes Ray McLeod, who's a safe option, right? 5-6 catches. Casey Washington is a more dynamic player, and he's more of an outside receiver. So I definitely like him a lot if Drake London misses. Now that's a ballsy move because he's owned, and I think he's 0% owned. So maybe 1% now after waivers. But that's a dude that could crush and be a dude down the road. Kind of always likes him as a player too. A really unknown name. What do we got? We got anything else? I'll hang out for a little bit, see if people join. I know it's a weird time to stream. I'm just kind of testing out my equipment right now. No problem, Eric. Eric! He's a bad man. Well, Billy Madison reference. Every time I hear the name Eric, I just think of Adam Sandler saying, Eric! Oh, coffee is good. Coffee is good. Coffee is fine. Didn't get much sleep last night. At 2 a.m., I always wait for my home leagues. I always wait for waivers to pass and then grab all the kickers and defenses so I don't have to use a waiver claim. Get first choice. It's all about finding whatever edge we can find, man. That's how you win in fantasy. So we could talk about some we did this last night a little bit, but some streaming defenses, man. I just got the Chargers in like every league. And they're an elite defense. Better real life defense than fantasy defense, but not a bad fantasy defense. They played the Chiefs last week, so I think a lot of people were scared away from them because they played the Chiefs. Only scored 2 points, but this week they have the Raiders. I believe they're at home too. So I like that. They were available in 50%. I'm guessing now they're probably available in like 30%. But I'm in on starting the Chargers this week. And in general, that's a defense. I don't necessarily like to do this unless I get like a top 4 guy defense. They're a defense you can hold all year. They have a Denver week 3, I think, but that doesn't look like that crazy of a matchup. I mean, I think the Titans defense scored like 10 or 12 points against them. So I love the Chargers defense. The Niners defense, you can hold them all year, man. They have a cupcake schedule. Patriots. I like the Patriots defense this week. They're only owned in 14% of leagues. They are looking at the Dolphins. I believe it's the Dolphins. I can double check that real quick. I had it marked down here because I picked them up in a few. Yeah, Patriots are at Dolphins, which isn't ideal being on the road, but that they got embarrassed last week. Mike Vrabel is he's a good coach, man. It was not good last week, but I like me some Patriots defense. The Cowboys defense, they're against the Giants. They're playing Russell Wilson, baby. So you want to start your defenses against a shitty ass Giants team. And then the Bucks. The Bucks they play another stinker. Oh, they play the Texans. So the Texans are beat to shit right now. And their offensive line is horrendous. I know the Bucks don't have a great pass rush, but they stopped the run. So it's going to be a lot of CJ Stroud dropping back, just being thrown to the wolves. Not a lot of pass catchers there right now in Houston. So the Bucks are widely available in like 90% of leagues. So hop on that train before everyone gets picked up. I love streaming defenses. Couple running backs that we should consider stashing. Blake Corum is only owned in like 12% of leagues. Blake Corum should be up there in my mind with the elite handcuffs. You're not going to get any week-to-week usage out of him, but that's not why we're picking these guys up. DJ Giddens is still owned in only 10% of leagues. Give me all the DJ Giddens. He established himself as the clear backup when Jonathan Taylor. We don't know about Jonathan Taylor's injury as well, so I think I'd prefer Giddens if you had a choice, just because there may be more immediate impact with JT possibly missing. I don't think he's going to miss, but maybe he's limited. Maybe they give DJ a little bit more of a role, but he has established himself as a true handcuff. He's a nice little rookie, man. He's got decent pass catching chops, pretty athletic. So DJ Giddens is a dude you really want to target on that last bench spot. For deep leagues, Kendre Miller appears to have finally gained the trust of his coaching staff there in New Orleans. So Kendre Miller looked pretty good. There was times I was watching that game. I watched it pretty closely because I have a lot of Marvin Harrison. And Kendre Miller, there was a couple plays he had where I looked up and I was like, is that Alvin Kamara? Now, granted, Kamara's a 30-year-old running back, but he's firmly the handcuff there. Now, I don't know how exciting it is to start a non-Alvin Kamara starting running back in New Orleans, but Kamara's old. He can get hurt. Like, I like Kendra Miller as a sneaky ad. Kareem Hunt, I'm not a fan of, but if you need in a deep league, if you need someone that's playable that can score a touchdown, I don't necessarily know what his handcuff value is if Pacheco were to get hurt. I think they'd bring someone else in. They'd use a lot more Brashard Smith. The main drop of the week, though, a guy that a lot of people drafted, I drafted everywhere, was Will Shipley. So with the Tank Bigsby trade, we're dropping Will Shipley. He's hurt anyway. Shipley might go on IR. He's got a rib issue, broken ribs. So the problem with that is Shipley is probably still going to be the change of pace back when he's healthy, but that's not really a valuable role in terms of starting him for fantasy. And if anything happens to Saquon, we assumed Will Shipley was just going to be the guy because A.J. Dillon blows. Unfortunately, Tank Bigsby would be the early down runner if something happened to Saquon. So any value we had with Will Shipley is, yeah, I don't know. You think so, TB? Coach Morris says Drake London and Mooney will practice today. Ooh, Eric, thank you for the insight, bro. I hope Drake London practices. Here's the problem with Drake London is, and I have a lot of Drake London. It's similar to what happened to CeeDee Lamb last year. That was an AC joint sprain, and he's going to play through it, but it's a problem because you're looking at him playing through it all year, so he's not going to be as effective. But I like the fact that he's going to play because we can't be losing Drake London this early. I wonder if I can do a vertical stream on this. I'm still trying to figure this out, but yeah, I can definitely fuck with that. For our night shows, though, I want to get my boy Story on here, so gonna see how I can do that one, but we'll figure it out. So it's a weird game, this YouTube thing. You get better equipment, better style here, and then it doesn't like work in the algorithm, which sucks ass. I hate the algorithm. There's got to be a way where it works both ways, right? But I guess we'll see. This coffee's delicious. We'll see. It is a weird time too, so I don't know necessarily if it's the time we're doing this at 11:25 on a Wednesday. I know a lot of people have jobs. Currently, my job is just to give you all this information and then lose money for doing it. It's all good. I'm winning a lot of money in fantasy and gambling this year, so that's been paying the bills the last week. Unfortunately, that's not exactly a smart strategy for the long haul. I got me a sugar mama. Actually, it's just mostly a job for good benefits. So try to pay my rent check with my benefits. Be like, yo, dude, don't worry. If I ever get sick, I can go to the doctor and get fucking free treatment. Doesn't work like that, unfortunately. We're going to see if we can fuck with the vertical thing after this, but I wonder how to do that. See, I'm kind of Amish. That's my problem. Definitely very Amish. Any questions regarding start, sit, defensive streams, anything like that, trade questions, I am here to answer them. Be on here for a little bit longer. Tonight, we're going to have a big show with my boy Story coming on, talking week 2. A little bit of betting, a little bit of gambling. Dak or Fields week 2, solid floor versus high upside. I mean, here's the thing about Justin Fields, bro, is he also has a solid floor because somehow he only had 48 yards rushing in week 1. I'm expecting 60 plus. So they're going to be, I think the Bills are going to beat the shit out of them. And not because the Jets aren't going to score, but I just think that the Jets, we just watched the Jets give up 34 points to old ass Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. How many points are the Bills going to put up on them? At least 30. So good game script. Give me Justin Fields, man. Dak, there will be games I prefer Dak. We got to see how that defense looks, because if that defense is anything decent, which it looked like against Philly, you're going to have a Dak issue because The value of Dak was the volume, right? The high volume. He doesn't give you anything on the ground. So um we need to wait and see on Dak. I mean, Justin Fields is just too easy. Is too easy of a start right now against the Bills. Here's the thing: the Bills are awful against rushing quarterbacks, dude. Like, how often do we see Lamar just crush them? Like, they can't stop the zone read. They can't stop. They can't stop the RPOs. So, well, thanks, TB. Yeah, I'm gonna mess around with it, see what happens. For now, I'm just gonna stick to this for a little bit, at least for this show. But yeah, I would go Fields. Fields over Dak. And I'm a little biased because I have Fields everywhere, but I think Fields is the play. Now, if Fields comes out and has a clunker and scores 13 points, then you maybe go back to Dak. But I think you're gonna kick yourself if you start Dak and he scores 20, which is solid, and Fields comes out and pops 28 again. I think Fields had like 32 week one. One more, Sharps or JCM? That's another tough one, man. Those are legitimately toss-ups, but man, it's such a tough matchup against the Packers. We literally just saw Gibbs average less than 2 yards a carry. We saw them get game scripted out, and JCM. The problem is JCM doesn't profile as a pass catcher. This is a better matchup for Austin Eckler. So, but we also don't know. Maybe Kenneth Walker comes out and gets 65% of the snaps. In that case, JCM would be the play. I would say if you need upside, you play JCM. If you're favored in your matchup and you have a pretty stable team, you go Sharps. Because you don't want a clunker, man. You don't want a 5-point outing. And JCM still only played 32% of the snaps. So, and I guess you can figure this out if it'll be answered for you. If Chris Rodriguez for some reason is active on Thursday, you're going to find this out before any of the games. Then you definitely go Sharps. If Chris Rodriguez is inactive again, I think you can roll with JCM. Kamara or ETN? I'm still going Kamara. ETN, kind of a tough matchup. The Bengals stopped the run. Actually, they did really well against the Browns stopping the run. They allowed some pass catches, a lot of catches to the running backs, but I think Tootin gets a nice little boost here. I think he's going to play a lot, and I'm just not a believer in ETN. One game doesn't prove it for me. You drafted Kamara in the 4th round, 3rd round for a reason, if this is PPR especially. In PPR, this is definitely Kamara. If we're looking at half PPR, I could maybe see the allure of starting ETN, probably more likely for a touchdown. But I'm not too worried about Kamara. He only had a couple catches, but TB has Sharps or a Dunze for week 2. You're going out Dunze, man. He looked fine. What up, Nick? How do you feel about Joe Mixon coming back? I feel awful about Joe Mixon coming back. There's multiple ways this can go wrong. He doesn't come back until week 8, week 9. At that point, you still can't trust him the first couple weeks. He comes back. Yeah, see how he looks. How does the foot respond? What's the usage going to be if Nick Chubb kind of looks good? And I'm of the belief that Nick Chubb's probably out for the year. I just don't. It's been really, really weird. The reports, like, there hasn't been any reports. They kind of hit it in the offseason a little bit, just mentioning it a few times. And then lo and behold, now Joe Mixon's on IR. We're going into week 2 right now. We still haven't had an update on him. So earliest he's coming back is week 5. Yeah, no, Nick Chubb, like where you took Joe Mixon's fine. I saw a lot of guys taking him in the 9th or 10th round, which is a mistake. It's nice too, because if you have him on an IR slot, it's fine. Like, here's the issue though. If you have a Kittle or you get some guys banged up and you need to use that IR spot, you could probably drop Mixon. There's just better stashes. I'd rather have DJ Giddens. I'd rather have Blake Corum. I'd probably still rather have Joe Mixon over like Kendre Miller and Kareem Hunt. But I just don't believe that he's going to be the same player. Not to mention that offensive line looks even worse than last year. So if you're only getting a 60% snap share on a mediocre offense with a guy that's coming back from injury, that's just a lot of variables that I'm trying to avoid. Definitely trying to avoid. Now, Joe Mixon looked pretty good. As a guy that has a decent amount of Joe Mixon, or sorry, God damn it, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb looked good. I'll be starting to rank him as like a mid to high RB3, dude, depending on the matchup. Got 15 touches, played over 50% of the snaps. Looks spry. Definitely looked a little different than he did last year in Cleveland. I'm not saying Nick Chubb's back by any stretch. Ooh. Thoughts on Tyson Bagent as a Bears fan? I don't know. We paid him a lot of money. I mean, Caleb Williams is the guy. I don't care how bad it's going to get. It's still not as bad as like we've seen Bryce Young play. So I think he's in the conversation of one of the better backups. I think there's maybe be some trade value with him if Caleb hits. We can drop Pierce, right? 100%. Pierce is gone. I think Woody Marks is a better stash than Dameon Pierce. So if you want like a long-term stash, you go Dameon Pierce. I got Genty, Hubbard, and Cook, but if any of them go down, well, you got 3 of them though. So even if one goes down, you have 2. I would just load up that bench with potential starters, man. Like with injury, handcuff guys. That's the play there. There's going to be a lot of running back injuries this year. It's just every year it goes year to year. And last year, all the main guys stayed healthy. I'm not trying to wish injury on anyone. Not just saying that because I have all the handcuffs on my benches, but it's bound to happen, man. Like it's the NFL. Look at all the injuries we had. It was the weird positions, right? We had 2 tight ends get injured. We had some wide receivers get injured. Brock Purdy's hurt. We will see running backs, which is the most injury prone position, start taking a little hit. So I think you roll with those 3 guys and you just build up your bench with running backs. But I would say having Genty, Hubbard, and Cook is, I mean, that's pretty good draft. That's a 2nd round pick, 1st or 2nd round pick, a 4th round pick, and a 5th round pick. I think Bears Lions is going to be. I think the Lions are going to put up a lot of points. Like that is for sure. There's no way they're putting up 2 clunkers in a row. We just saw, and the Bears defense has beat the shit. I don't know how. I think it was a JJ McCarthy issue. Like the Bears defense looked pretty good, but we were missing our top 2 corners. And they're good corners. So we were playing some scrubs in the secondary. And JJ McCarthy just wasn't taking advantage of the weak corners there because he was scared the first 2.5 quarters. So Jared Goff is far and away better than JJ McCarthy at this point. The weapons on the Lions are way better than what the weapons on Minnesota are. And not to mention, I know the Vikings have a decent O-line. That was their first game. They had, I think, 3 new starters on O-line. So they were gelling, right? And you saw later in the game, it looked better. And I know the Lions offensive line looked terrible. They're still an above average unit. So I'm bullish on all the Lions this week. But you got to start JMO, you got to start Laporta, you got to start St. Brown, you got to start Gibbs, even Montgomery. I think they're putting up 30 on us. Unfortunately, I don't think we could keep up with them. So this is definitely more of a must win for the Lions than I know that we're both 0-1. Lions are at home. They have bigger aspirations. The Bears are just trying to become a functional NFL offense, functional NFL franchise, first-time head coach, young quarterback. The Lions are in win now mode. So like a 9-win season for the Lions, that's a massive disappointment. If the Bears win 8 or 9 games, I think that's a good season for us. Like I'm on the team. Fuck the Bears. Oh, God. Well, Nick, that's all you've had for a long time. I mean, maybe the Jake Delhomme era, and I suppose Cam Newton had a couple good years. I mean, they had one epic year, 15-1, not to take away from that. But you guys got smoked in the Super Bowl, and your quarterback didn't want to get on the ground to pick up a fumble in the 4th quarter. I still am amazed by that play. Every time I see that highlight in the Super Bowl of Cam Newton just like being scared to get a fucking loose ball. Like, I think he was like taking a stand. And he was pissed about his offensive line. not protecting him. He's like, fuck that. I'm going to lose the ball. But dude, Cam Newton's a guy that historically always put his body on the line. That was for touchdowns, unfortunately. But yeah, it was awesome. But like Cam Newton was a tough guy to root for, man. Like I know he was super fun, but like that play right there summed up Cam Newton. Selfish, fucking selfish. You think Tom Brady, you think these greats, Drew Brees, you think they're not jumping on that ball? He did give you everything that year until the Super Bowl, and then he didn't, and then he gave up. Dude, you guys might have won that game if he recovers that ball. He's getting that fumble. Dude, Cam Newton's 250 pounds. That was just crazy, dude. That was a good run for you guys. Like I feel you there because the Panthers aren't like the worst. They're not Browns level bad. And the Bears aren't Browns level bad. The Bears have been generally competitive in terms of regular season. We've had 3 different eras where we've been pretty good. Just they were always kind of like not like they were like smoke screens, man. We had good defense, good special teams, shit like that. Never had an elite quarterback. You guys did have Cam, but you surrounded him with balls in terms of wide receivers. You had like Ted Ginn and just some scrubs. Bannon or Juwan pickup. I have Kittle. That's a tough one because you're only looking for a 4-week replacement. So I like Fannin as a better for a long-term stash. He could be a difference maker as soon as maybe next week, but I feel like it's more of a 6, 7, 8, 9, those weeks where Juwan Johnson seems probably safer. But I think I like Dalton Schultz if that was the option to replace Kittle, because Dalton Schultz should be good for the next 3 or 4 weeks until they get some of the receivers back. And Cade Stover's out for the year now. So the backup tight end they were planning on using more is out for the year. So I like Dalton Schultz. I know it's not fun to start Dalton Schultz in fantasy, but he's still the number 2 option for CJ Stroud right now. And probably definitely the number 2 red zone option. What else you guys got for me? Here for whatever you need. Kittle's out 4 weeks, man. Like at least. Like the earliest Kittle can come back is week 6. And that's the earliest he can come back. And we don't have a lot of news on the severity of the hamstring, but it must be bad enough where they said we're not even, because if it was a 2 or 3 week injury, you just ride it out and don't put him on IR. So the fact that they are forcing him to miss 4 games says to me he might not be back till week 7, which sucks, man. It really sucks, especially with Brock Purdy being hurt. Juwan Jennings is hurt. He sounds like he's okay, but McCaffrey will soon be hurt in 3 or 4 weeks, probably, if they keep on giving him 31 touches a week, which is just fucking wild to me. Cam Scatabo, Nick, all day, dude. Jaden Blue, the reports have been really bad about Jaden Blue. They said he's not even going to be active for the next couple of weeks until he cleans up some of his mistakes. That's typically in ball security and mostly in pass protection. So the fact that they have Miles Sanders, who just pretty much lost in the game. Yeah, he had a nice 50-yard run, but that fumble was awful. And even after that, this week they're talking for week 2 that like he's not going to be active. So they don't trust Miles Sanders. Javonte Williams, who I love, but he's not exactly like an all-timer. And they're still not putting Jaden Blue on the active roster. That is a concern. I know Cam Scatabo only played 8% of the snaps. Cam, they drafted higher in terms of draft capital. They love him there. They don't like Tracy that much. I know Tracy's going to be the starter, but this team you're going to see, they're going to be awful. Their schedule is like impossible. And I like their late season upside with Jackson Dart. Gives them a little something different. So I think Cam will be the starter by like week 7, week 8. That's definitely a hold. Not to mention, if something happens to Tracy, I know they're playing Singletary, they would give that job to Scatabo. Not so hot take. Caleb will most likely be a bust. Yeah, he's got arm strength. He has scrambling. He has playmaking. Like that throw we made in the first quarter, we were scrambling to the right sideline and hit Odunze. Dude, what, 2, 3 quarterbacks in the league make that throw? Maybe 4. But he also does shit that just sucks. Should I start Dak or Daniel Jones this week? You're starting Dak. I don't think we should get cute with Daniel Jones and a lot of these things. It's only 1 week, one bad week. Daniel Jones had one good week. They're going to be a run first team. He's not going to score 2 rushing touchdowns every week. He's not going to score 1 rushing touchdown every week. So I'm definitely rolling with Dak Prescott. Like, I didn't pick up Daniel Jones anywhere. I'm not going down that road, man. I just think it's so easy. I always just throw this out as the example of Isaiah Likely last year, who was the number 1 waiver. Like, people use their number 1 waiver claim on him after week 1. Andrews had like 1 catch, just like he had this week. Likely had 9 catches for a buck 10 or whatever it was, and a touchdown, and it looked awesome. And then Isaiah Likely didn't really do much the rest of the year. He wasn't a guy you could consistently, confidently start week to week at tight end. So, like, that happened. So, I mean, Daniel Jones isn't all of a sudden going to become fantasy relevant. He might be fantasy relevant, but not like a starter. TB, Penix or Bo Nix the rest of the season. It's still Bo Nix, bro. It's still Bo Nix. The rushing upside, I know the nice thing is Penix did look really good with his legs. I think he's more likely, he's like a Dak Prescott was in his prime, right? Like, Dak wasn't a guy like churning up a bunch of yards rushing, but he always had 6 rushing touchdowns. Penix has a nose for the end zone. He's a pretty big dude, not pretty decently athletic too. So I like Penix. The problem is you got some beat up receivers there. Bo Nix has all the opportunity in the world. It's just I don't think Bo is very good. He's definitely gonna be a bust where you drafted him as quarterback 7, typically to quarterback 8. But I'm still going Bo Nix. But Penix has see, I'm much more bullish on picking up Penix as a backup than Daniel Jones, because Penix has a huge arm, and I like the Atlanta offense. They're going to let him cook this year, but it's still Bo Nix, baby. We don't want to, after 1 week. I know it was a rough game, but Bo Nix still has, he 400 plus rushing yard upside. Nick, to finish on the scat about Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue is like, you talking week 4, week 5, I'm way more likely to pick up Blue. I just want to see him active first and see what his role could be, because he's never going to be like the guy. Like, Jaden Blue's never going to be a 3-down back, where Cam Scatabo has that profile of good in pass protection, really good receiver, really good goal line back. He's got like the money profile. It's just playing time with him. And unfortunately, Jaden Blue has a bigger concern with playing time. So Cam Scatabo, if people start dropping him, that's going to be a gift. You just snatch him up everywhere. So it's a late season to the moon guy. Lost my first game by 7 points. Joe Burrow gave me 9. Never taken a quarterback for my last pick again. I usually just stream quarterbacks. I mean, that's fair, but here's the problem with that is that the people that drafted Josh Allen, and on a lesser extent Lamar Jackson, they're sitting there saying, I'm so glad I took an early quarterback, because Josh Allen, if you had Josh Allen and you lost your matchup, you suck at fantasy. Josh Allen was a free win, 40 plus, depending on your format, 40 plus points. I'm not into early quarterback. Joe Burrow was my target this year. I have him in 4 or 5 leagues. Typically they're all 6 for a passing touchdown where I move him up. Joe Burrow will be just fine. It sucks, but like when he comes out, whether it's this week, next week, and probably 9 or 10 other weeks this year, and puts up 32 points and throws for 370 yards and 4 touchdowns, you're going to be very happy you took Joe Burrow. And the reason we take early quarterback is when you make the playoffs, it's such a nice 1 week advantage to have a dude that can single-handedly win a week for you. Where I'm not saying guys like Justin Fields, and maybe Justin Fields should be left out of this because I love Fields. The guys you took a little later, Baker Mayfield, some of the Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, they're not going to have the boom weeks. They don't have the rushing upside that these top guys have, or the elite passing upside that Joe Burrow has. So I wouldn't panic on Joe Burrow. It sucks he lost the matchup, but I promise you Joe Burrow's going to win you more matchups than he loses you, and he's going to have a great floor. That was just a fucked up game, bro. They ran like 40 plays. I don't know what they were doing. I'm pissed. I bet on the Bengals. It was fucking embarrassing. Lex, plant some trees. I have JT 12-team PPR league. Drop Najee, Jennings, or Tesla for Giddens. Oh, not Jennings. Probably Tesla. It pains me because I love picking up Tesla right now, but you're probably gonna drop Tesla because Jennings is gonna have immediate. He's fine. Like I think he's fine. Joe Burrow will be great, man. I'm not worried about Joe Burrow. I'm not worried about that offense. I am worried about that offensive line not being any better. It almost looked worse. And like, I can't believe Joe Burrow put up the year he did last year with that shit offensive line. I know the weapons are elite, but like, if he's just going to get his brains beaten in, not to mention like the risk of injury, dude, like that franchise is just repeatedly like giving Joe Burrow the middle finger. And what a classy guy. You don't hear him talking. Like Aaron Rodgers would have been chirping the whole time. I guess they did pay T Higgins. That's what he wanted, but like they refused to pay Trey Henderson until the end of the like off season, until like week 2 of the preseason. They just like, dude, don't be cheap. When you have Joe Burrow and you have a 6-year window of a top 2, top 3 real life quarterback in the NFL, don't be cheap. Fucking pay your guys, dude. It's unreal. That's the Bengals for you, man. That's why they're a losing franchise. Their owner's a fucking, that guy's such a fucking idiot, dude. Brown, what a clown. What an old clown. All right, boys. I got to cut the grass and do some shit around the house. But I think tonight around midnight, I'm going to have my boy Story on. We're going to go through week 2 prep and all that kind of stuff, some gambling stuff, all that good shit. So I do appreciate the few of you that were in here. But I do appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon.